Welcome to our second weekly update for our Isleta Pueblo Tobacco Grow Zero campaign. For those of you not familiar with our nomenclature, Grow Zero indicates that we're establishing a baseline for something new. In this instance, the strain that we're growing is new and the grow tent behind us is also new. So we're going to be working through some process conditions there to try to maximize a consistent yield. This video is going to cover days 5 through days 11. And with that, we're going to be looking at some images we've taken throughout the week, and we're also going to be talking about some of the issues that we faced along the way. So getting into day 5 here, this was the very first day that we put the plants in the tent. We had 10 seedlings total, and that was across the 2 germination bags. Now, day 6, we still had no growth, shown from both bags 3, 4, and 5. So we kind of panicked here. We didn't see a lot of growth coming there. We were excited about getting the new grow tent online, and we were excited about seeing some germination starting on day 4. So for some reason, looking back now, we decided to take the lights and drop them from 46 inches down to 14 inches and put them right on top of these seedlings. And let me tell you, they didn't like this. We definitely saw some heat stress that stalled out our growth. Day 6, we also installed the exhaust fan. So as you can see here, looking through these exhaust fan pictures, there's lots of duct tape on this exhaust fan. This duct tape is not structural by any means. This is just to minimize metal on metal contact and hopefully get a little better seal between the filter and the fan, as well as not have any metal on metal rattling in case the exhaust fan was to hit that resonant frequency. With the exhaust fan, we left the setting on low and we're seeing excellent performance. We're actually seeing the walls of the tent suck in, which means that we are getting a good negative pressure inside the tent and a good turnover of the air inside the tent. So the grow bags on day 6, with having those seedlings online, we decided to tape the edges open just to hold them that way a little better. Day 7, we misted some water onto the plants due to the top of the soil being dry. And that is because the tent temperature hit 90. So we were excited before. The tent temperature hit 90 and we straight panicked. We didn't know which way was up here. We just started making changes, knowing that that high heat, seeing that 90, was definitely going to be stunning our growth in this germination phase. And that's specifically because our humidity here is so low. Where we're located, we're seeing 20% ambient humidity. So between that temperature with that low of the humidity, no plant is going to be happy there. And to top it all off, with that high temperature of 90 degrees, we forgot to put the second strap on the filter. We only had one strap on the filter and we were accidentally utilizing the duct tape as structural integrity, and that filter took a dive and went all the way down to the floor. We reinstalled the filter. There is some minor damage there that I'm too embarrassed to show you, but as you can see here, we do have a second filter strap now to keep everything in place. So day 8, we added some water again because obviously with our lights at 14 inches, our ambient temperatures at 90, and our humidities in the ambient areas being 20%, we're burning through some water here. So we are adding water again on day 8. We did have a good idea here. We reduced our lights from 2 down to 1, and that was just to minimize the heat there. Now, a bad idea that we followed through with is bags 3 out of 5 that were not showing any growth were actually recycled. So we took those bags, we put them back in the soil, and just continued forwards with the 2 bags that had already showed growth. Now, with the high temperatures that we were seeing, we decided to elevate our exhaust fan cycling. So what we saw there is with the exhaust fan cycling elevated, the ambient temperature or humidity being 20%, we spiked the humidifier set point up to 95% just to try to compensate. And we burned through almost our whole reservoir in a 24-hour period. And that's where we step into day 9. The exhaust fan was confirmed to be fighting the humidifier, and we refilled it with that full tank refill there. Ambient is still confirmed around 20%. And we decided to make some homemade fertilizer with these plant spikes here that you can see these pictures of. These plant spikes have probably been in my garage longer than I've lived at this house. But once again, we were panicking. The temperature got high, the lights were low, and we just decided to see if, hey, maybe it needs some fertilizer. So we did this, and immediately after we applied it, had this gut feeling that we killed everything. Now, a spoiler alert there, we actually didn't kill anything. It all turned out excellent, so that's really good news coming up in the next week. Now, day 9, we also raised that light back up to 31 inches, and that really helped things out. So with backing everything off, we've got the exhaust fan cycling more to keep the tent cooler. We've got the lights from 2 lights down to 1 light, and we've got those raised from 14 inches up to 31 inches. We didn't make any more changes for day 10 or day 11. We just kept the grow tent sealed up, and we let these plants grow uninterrupted, and that was the best decision we could have made there. So let's get into some graphs here. You can see the temperatures from day 0 to day 11. And that's got a nice little curve to it with this oddball cold spell here on day 6. Other than that, everything's pretty uniform. Now, what I do want to point out here is that the orange dots are going to be the tent temperature, and the gray dots are going to be the ambient temperature, and these are both averages of the maximum and the minimum, so we should be writing the center line of both those ranges with these dots. So if you'll notice, when we were cycling the exhaust fan very little, right when we basically got it online on day 6, we had a large gap between the orange and the gray dots. So as we stepped up that cycling to a more frequent basis, you can see that the dots got closer, and even over here, a 78.2 to a 75, that's pretty nominal there. And we're just seeing a better performance out of things, a more steady temperature across the board, and we're getting off of this large curve and back into territory that we're comfortable stepping forwards with. So humidity here, you heard me mention that ambient is very low. So you have the orange here is your ambient temperatures as read by the monitoring equipment that we have. Once again, this is an average, so these dots are writing the center line between the max and the minimum. Just a simple average there, no weighted averages involved. The blue here is going to be the average of the tent humidity between the maximum and the minimum, and the gray is the set point on the humidifier for that day. So if you'll notice on day 8, we actually went above the set point on the average. So we only had the set point at 60% for a portion of the day. This is when we actually spiked the humidity up to 95%. And that's why you're seeing this average come out to be a 61%, because we were pumping the humidifier harder on that day, but the set point we recorded at the end of the day was only a 60% set point. So lots of sporadic pieces here to the humidity. We're really going to be working to level that curve off and try to hold things a little bit more consistent. And these large gaps here are beyond just the ambient movements. You can see the ambient temperature has this flow to it, at least. Everything's fairly close to the previous dot, even though it is fluctuating. But with our current tent averages, we are all over the place. We took a hard drop here that you could almost attribute to the ambient, and then we spiked it, dropped it, spiked it, and came back down. So we're going to be working to smooth out our process there as we move forward. So looking at the kilowatt hours for this tent, we've got this handy graph here that the two things you're going to see is the blocks are the running totals. So every day this was the reading that was taken on that day of the running total. So we ended with day 11 being at a 35.45. And then if we look at the orange dots, this is the change from day to day. So day 8, once again, the day that we don't like to talk about, saw 7.63 kilowatt hours usage as compared to day 7. So what that is going to be attributed to is spiking this humidifier. So if you go back to the humidifier video, you'll see that when that thing fires up, it really pulls on the amps and can get up to about 4 to 5 amps if I'm remembering correctly. Now steady state max operation, you're sitting just about 1 amp. But this draw that you're seeing here is that humidifier trying to cycle 95% and maintain capacity with everything else running 100% exhaust fan included, trying to pull that temperature down. So it'll be interesting to see as we move forward how this delta right here levels off and how high we're actually going to get as we move through this grow cycle with the running total. The last graph I want to point out here is the consumables. So there's 3 things to note on here. We've got the gray blocks, which are fertilizer added. We've got the orange dots, which are water added to the plants. And then we've got the blue dots, which is humidifier water added. So looking at these blue dots, the humidifier didn't really come online and we didn't have to add any water. We brought it online on day 5, but this thing's pretty efficient, especially when we give it a favorable set point. So we didn't have to refill it till day 8. Then we had to refill it again on day 9 because once again, day 8, we spiked that humidifier and we really consumed a lot of water there. You can see here day 0, we utilized 40 ounces of water. This was the initial germination. This was the initial water that we utilized to germinate these bags. Day 5, we added a little bit more water as things were kind of drying up. And then 7, 8, 9, more water added to the plants. Day 8 and day 9, this is once again attributed to making some bad decisions with the light height. Never should have brought that down to 14 inches. We should have taken a slower pace, which is exactly what we're going to do moving forward. And something I found to be interesting here is this pivot table just shows you we're looking at 12 days of a count here. And that 12 days is going to be day 0 to day 11. We're using a total of 248 ounces of water that we have put through the humidifier and a total of 91 ounces of water that has been added to the plants themselves. That's either misting onto the plants or adding it into the tray and letting the germination bag pull it up from the bottom. And then the fertilizer added here, we're just gonna track this in ounces. We're gonna keep mixing up these water bottles and applying it in that manner. I hope that this data helps you on your grow. It's definitely gonna be interesting as we continue to collect this and see where we land after these plants fully mature. So be sure to like and subscribe, to stick with us through these weekly updates, and go check out the channel. See what else we've got out there. There's gonna be a lot of content coming through in the next few months, and there's definitely gonna be something that you're gonna enjoy. Find us on social media, get to be a part of the community, join the conversation. We'd love to hear what you got to say.